Hi, I'm Nanette Nokan. Join us in this segment of It's About Money. Our guest is Jennifer Mahar, Geriatric Case Manager, and we'll be talking about independent living for older adults. Stay tuned. Hi, welcome to another edition of It's About Money. We're living longer as Americans and we need a little bit of help along the way. We might need help for our parents, our aunts and uncles, grandparents perhaps, or the neighbor. And thankfully, there's a new career that has set up, a new help that's available to older adults, to seniors, and that's the Geriatric Care Manager. And we're fortunate today to have Jennifer Mahar be with us and talk about what a Geriatric Care Manager can provide to our seniors. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Appreciate having you. I mean, certainly the population's has gotten older and older, and so they need some help in trying to maintain independence in their lives.
Yes.
What are you finding are the special needs of seniors today?
Well, the world has gotten so complicated. Just making a simple phone call is a series of prompts and menus. We're often referred to the internet. Mm-hmm. The senior may not have internet capacity. Regardless of who sits in front of the internet, it's another menu of choices. The information is not always accurate. Medicare D and the donut hole was extremely confusing and continues to be confusing. Choices, choices, choices. If a senior would like to move into an apartment, they choose between an independent apartment with amenities, an enriched living apartment, or assisted living apartment. Everything is just overwhelming and very, very confusing. Then we have the family unit, and the adult children are caring for their parent, who, as you mentioned, is living longer than ever. 100 is no longer so amazing. 110 is amazing now. It's incredible. And while they're caring for their adult or their senior parent, they're caring for their children. And because the senior parent is living so long, they're taking care of their grandchildren in some cases. And so that's all so very stressful and overwhelming for everyone. And on occasion, that family unit is everywhere in the nation, as opposed to right here in town with the elderly. So that adds a very difficult component because that support system's not in place.
I see. So you're right, even just the regular contacts to an insurance company or just a credit card or something like that makes it difficult because it's hard to get a person on the line.
Yes.
You have to go through the prompts. And I know when I work with clients, they're like, I don't know how you work that out so easily, but many of them say it's just so frustrating to not have a person to talk to.
People want that person, and that's the Geriatric Care Manager.
Mm-hmm. And then also with the move, you're right, because now as people change in their physical abilities, they might want to change their residence.
Yes.
And there's so many different choices, and
yes.
where do they go, you know?
Yes, and so many different, even within assisted living, there's so many choices of what they're going to, the amenities that they're going to provide, mm-hmm. so many different price tags, and so many different choices of the quality of what you get when you get there, mm-hmm. that it really does help to have somebody on the inside line telling you exactly what's going on.
Be able to ask the questions that they're wondering about.
Yes.
Sometimes the brochures don't talk about,
yes.
or the representative from
yes.
that facility or
yes.
whatever may not be talking about. Now, how does the service of the case manager, care manager, help the senior stay at home?
Well, geriatric care managers will do a review of the house for safety, a review of the house for the forward-moving changes that could possibly happen with this client, and make suggestions and recommendations that allow them to, what they call today, age in place. So whether they're an apartment dweller or a home dweller, if they'd like to stay put, they can advise them on how to do that within that space. They can also talk to them about the finances of aging, mm-hmm. and trying to maintain some monies for themselves to carry them through to the end. Mm-hmm. usually there will be also a wide referral base that the care manager has for that financial advisor or that elder care attorney. So instead of going out cold and wondering if you're getting a good person and a good match, you can go directly to some choices that you can feel confident about. And certainly with a professional visitor coming routinely, the person's health is going to be monitored. Now, some geriatric care managers are social workers. Mm-hmm. I am a nurse geriatric care manager. I'm able to do the social work piece, and I'm a nurse. In that scenario, especially, but even with the social worker, it's a professional coming in and eyeballing that client. And if you can detect a change very early, it's easy to fix. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so it can prevent hospitalization. Hospitalization can lead to a rehab in a nursing home, or it could lead to a long-term nursing home stay. So having that person come in is huge in helping you maintain in your own home. And all of those initial worries and all those complications are so much less. So without that stress and that worry, people always wonder, what if? What if this happens to me? What if that happens to me? What am I ever going to do? And the geriatric care manager takes that worry right away. You don't have to worry about that, because one, you can discuss it and I'll tell you, whoever it is will tell you the answers. Or two, you can just have that confidence that when that time arises, the geriatric care manager is going to know what to do. So
okay. So first you look at the goal of the client or clients in the case of a couple,
yes,
or
yes,
siblings or whatever,
yes,
which happens many times.
Yes.
So you look at their goals and objectives, and if they want to stay at their current residence,
yes,
that looking at ways to make that happen.
Yes.
And maybe just looking at the surroundings, yes, and seeing if there's an obstacle that can get in their way.
Right, right. Different care managers have a little different philosophy. But in my own philosophy, I am not the one leading the life. Mm-hmm. The senior is. Mm-hmm. It's their life, it's their choice. We get to live today, and then it's gone. Mm-hmm. So I would like to listen very hard to their wishes, mm-hmm, look at the reality of the situation, and see if I can't merge those two together with their help, mm-hmm, into a plan that they would embrace, not a plan that I am making, something that's workable for them. I want the senior to feel like they're still in control. Sure. Because it feels so helpless, hopeless when everything's spiraling out of control.
Sure. And sometimes there's a different timeline that they're thinking about, but then the reality timeline is so different too.
Yes,
so
yes. There's generally an education curve. Mm-hmm. We have to talk about what can we really expect. Often with a geriatric care manager involved, doctors are very pleased that on forthcoming visits, the person seems better.
Oh, great.
Well, they seem better because they're not so terribly stressed. Mm-hmm. But then in addition, if the family and if the senior agrees, the care manager can go right to that doctor's appointment, hear what it is that the doctor is exactly telling that client about their health, and then reinforce that, educate around that, and help the senior and their adult children understand what's going on and understand some of the possible expectations of what lies ahead with whatever it is that is or is not going on.
I see. So as I see it, it's sort of the geriatric care manager, sort of a child or somebody who's looking over or looking out for the older adults that's saying, okay, you need some help, but then it's a more objective perspective than perhaps a child going along with the parent.
Yes. Sometimes we are surrogate children, in that the families can be so widespread, sure, that there is no one in town. I have families that are in Colorado, Alaska, California, Israel.
Oh my.
And the adult children are not here, I am here. Mm-hmm. And so what would an adult child do if they are here? I do that.
I see.
So I'm stopping by for a visit, I'm checking up how did it go with the doctor, whatever are the loose ends, everything.
I see.
Grocery shopping, taking care of themselves, whatever needs monitoring, I'm there to help if that's what the family and the client would like.
I see. And then if you see a potential need that's not being addressed,
right,
that needs
right,
some attention from the
right,
children that can
right,
be communicated.
I try very hard to address the needs that we have on the plate right now, mm-hmm, and then I want to try to prevent a problem next? And then I want to plan ahead. You know, people get homeowners insurance and car insurance and life insurance, and well, an insurance can be having a geriatric care manager plan if it ever came about that you needed to go in a nursing home. Let's pick now calmly what you might want to choose, as opposed to being faced at the last minute with a hospital setting where they're saying, give me a list of 10 places you're going, and you're going this afternoon.
Got it. Okay.
And that's not always the thoughtful choice.
Sure, sure. And if you can help them prioritize, at least it's not an overwhelming decision, because they either have visited the site or at least read about it, and it's not too...
And then hopefully we're not going to need it.
Sure.
But if we ever need it, it's all set. We don't need to worry. Where will I go? What will happen? You already know. I'm going to go to this nursing home or that nursing home or the other nursing home. It's already set, and you can relax.
So then you lower the stress points of the
always
clients.
lower the stress points. Yes.
And they say it's a kind of the more stressed we are, the shorter the life expectancy, so the quality of life enhanced.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah,
yes.
That's great.
Yep.
That's great.
Yep.
Now, what qualifies a person to be a geriatric care manager? Now, you said you're a nurse, and some are social workers.
Really, you know, it's a newer position. It's not brand new, but that geriatric care manager title, it is a little bit newer of a wave. And I am aware that they are starting to have geriatric care manager education in college level.
Oh.
But prior to that, there was not that channel that you could take in college. So geriatric care managers are generally licensed individuals, either a licensed social worker or a licensed nurse. And they have had a significant number of years, at least 3, with the elderly population. And generally the job is you learn as you go. You know, and so I spend a great deal of time out there on my own dime, finding out what's what in our community, so that I can keep myself informed and try to offer the best services possible.
Just really knowing what resources there might be.
And you have to visit them again and again, because a resource is only as good as the people that work there.
Sure. That's true. And things need to be updated and so on.
Every 3 to 5 years.
So you got to keep your ear to the community and seeing what's going on and being able to make that fit.
Right.
So there's a lot of...
Right.
Yeah, that's great. That's really great. It's wonderful that they're beginning to have formal education with regard to that.
Yes, it is.
Some people might need a little bit more direction.
Because, you know, in the beginning I started with the list of all the confusing things. And within that, it's only been, I think, maybe 2 years that the government stepped in and said, you know what, we need to define what assisted living is and what enriched living is. Because you had assistive and assistive-like and assisted, and so it's assisted or it's not in New York State. And so who is a geriatric care manager? That should have a standard with it too. So it's wonderful that these things are being addressed.
Yeah, that's great. It's nice, I think, the objectivity of that person working with the seniors with regard to helping them make choices is fantastic. Because really there's no bias as to what selections need to be made.
Well, you know, in this whole scenario comes a huge amount of emotion. Because the children are so worried about their parent. In fact, most times the children are thinking that the parent shouldn't live in their house. They should move. And the parent thinks they're just fine. The kids are worried about the parent. The parent's not worried about themselves.
Right.
And so the parent is usually wary of having a geriatric care manager come in because they're afraid that manager's going to say, well, you've gotta anything. And that's not my style. I like to come in there and say, what would you like? And sometimes I tell them, look, you know, one of the things I specialize in, getting your kids off your back. I will help make them go away.
Because they know you're fine. They'll know that you're fine with the help you're providing. That's great. That's great. Well, we'll take a quick break. Our guest today is Jennifer Mahar, Geriatric Care Manager, and we're talking about seniors and how to help them maintain their independence. We'll be right back.
Can I buy with 2 rectangles? A bus ride. You're right. Good job, honey. You're so
When you talk
smart.
with your child, you build vocabulary, and learning starts long before school does. For more tips, go to bornlearning.org.
Passing gas in the presence of others is not only inappropriate,
That is so foul.
it can be deadly. Passing gas releases a fog of carbon monoxide
Grandpa,
and other poisonous fumes that can contribute to asthma and pneumonia.
you're killing us over here.
Kids shouldn't be exposed to secondhand smoke. Don't pass gas, take it outside.
And we're back. Welcome back to this edition of It's About Money. We're talking with Jennifer Mahar, Geriatric Care Manager, about seniors and helping them maintain their independence. Thanks again for being here, Jennifer. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Now, let's talk about the money part. I mean, how does the services get paid of a Geriatric Care Manager?
The bulk of geriatric care managers, when you see that title, a geriatric care manager, generally that is a private pay situation.
Okay.
Generally, that is a private pay situation. However, if we are bringing in home care, like a nurse and an aide and so forth, they will have social workers attached to that service that can be paid by insurance. And if I've run into that, I back out temporarily if the family agrees and let them do their job on insurance.
Okay.
And if the home care stops, then I step back in. Or if they want me just to come in every month or two and just give a little overview of how things are going, a second opinion, I will do something like that. And some of the low-income individuals may be able to have some assistance, and they're going to have to just ask.
I see.
And they can be directed to locations that can help them.
I see. Okay. So it's generally private pay, but then if
Generally
someone
private
can...
pay.
Okay. And how does one look up a geriatric care manager?
Well, you can look in, well, first, I think people should check with their doctor, check with the neighbors, check with their friends. Word of mouth is usually good. Did you like somebody? Didn't you like somebody? Because it's a newer field, though, you may not have that reference. And individuals can go to the phone book, yellow pages or white pages, and look under the word senior. And there will be senior housing and senior helpers and all kinds of senior everything.
Sure.
If there is access to the internet, the keywords are Geriatric Care Manager, Rochester, New York. And a list will come up of various geriatric care managers who have websites, and you can review those sites and get a sense of that individual. And I do recommend that folks interview 2 or 3, at least by phone, before picking a geriatric care manager, because you want someone that you are going to feel comfortable with their personality, because they're going to be your advocate.
Right.
They're going to be kind of your force field between you and everything that's out there, and help you feel more safe. And what their philosophy is in listening to you and following your guide, and not just running over the top of you. So you want to make sure that you're getting what you want. On the other hand, if you don't want to make decisions and you want somebody to just come in and do it, you want to make sure you're getting that too.
Sure.
So you want to have a match. You really want to have a match.
I see. So it's really trying to get that feel for the person's, the geriatric care manager's personality, and just having that open communication.
Yes.
So if you don't land on somebody that you can't communicate and be able to express concerns and feel comfortable with.
There's got to be trust.
Right, right.
You know, this is a person that's coming in and helping you run your life. And you know, if you think about just having someone come in your house and go through your medications, maybe open your refrigerator to see how you're doing with food, that's pretty invasive. That's pretty invasive.
Yes.
And then they're going to know all about your insurance. They're going to have your social security number. They're going to, oh my gosh, they're going to know your doctor. They're maybe going to come to the doctor's appointment with you. Could you imagine having someone sit next to you right now at your doctor's appointment and hear what's going on with you? So it's a pretty invasive thing, and it needs to be handled respectfully, and there needs to be a warmth between the geriatric care manager and the client, and a trusting, respectful relationship. It's got to be a match. Everybody doesn't match everybody.
Sure.
So you want to make sure you're landing with somebody that you feel comfortable with. And if someone is in a circumstance that they're not comfortable, they just need to be able to get out of that and onto a new one.
So it's like the person is their partner for independent living
Yes.
in a way.
Yes.
So then you're
it's
not,
a very good way to put it. Yes.
Yeah, that's really wonderful. It's like coming in, okay, what concerns you right now? And then just
Yes.
answering, helping them find the solutions for that.
Yes.
Or possible solutions so they can make decisions.
Yes. Yes. And you know, as a nurse, I will notice that the person is not sitting up as straight as they usually do. I will notice that those ankles are just a little puffy today. I will notice that the eyes are not as bright as they should be, or there's a slight slurring of the speech, or maybe the face isn't quite as symmetrical as it should be. I'll notice the smallest change. And some of those small changes mean a big thing. And we can get right in that day to the doctor and get that handled. And
So a trained eye makes a huge difference.
A trained eye makes a huge difference.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's great. Now, do you ever work with a couple where one's health is failing and the other one's taking
Yes.
care of them and just trying
Oh,
to...
it's a heartbreak. It's a heartbreak for that. Because they want to stay together. Nobody wants to leave the house. So we may have an option where we can bring in home care for the spouse that's not as well and keep them together. But if it comes to a point where around-the-clock home care is required, that's more expensive than a nursing home stay.
Sure.
This is not
absolutely.
something that people generally understand. They think, oh, well, I'll just hire in some help.
You'll have to pay rent, but it's a little different when they have to come to you.
Yes, it is. You still get to be maintained in your home, but you're rifling through your bucks pretty quick.
Sure.
So if 24-hour care is more expensive than a nursing home, half of that is just under a nursing home, and it's still quite expensive. In addition, there just are not enough companions and aides available. In the Rochester area, we have all of these restaurants opening up, new banks opening up, and so forth, stores. Those are gleaning off the person I would like to be a home health aide.
I see what you mean.
And so who's left? There's not enough hands to do all the work in town.
Now, that's interesting to say because people say, gee, can't find a job. But there's so many jobs available.
Yes.
Just even fulfilling
Yes.
that need, you know, somebody to be a
Yes.
companion and
Yes.
you know, to an older adult and that
Absolutely.
kind of thing. Wow. That's amazing. It's a great point. I mean, a
Yes.
different subject altogether on a more global
Yes.
scale for
Yes.
our community here.
Right.
So. No, tell me about this. I mean, your background is nursing. Would you replace a social worker as a
Yes.
geriatric care manager?
Yes.
Okay.
Geriatric care managers can be social workers.
Okay.
So when you see that title, it is often a social worker, and so of course that is the social worker. If you get a geriatric care manager nurse, one of the things about nurses is they're trained to overlap everyone. The nurse does a little bit of what the doctor does, what the nutritionist does, what the pharmacy does, what the social worker does. So the geriatric care manager nurse does know about the insurances and those kinds of things that the social worker would pick up for. However, a good geriatric care management nurse will recognize if there's an area that nurse doesn't know. Refer to a social worker. Make that referral and have the right person take care of the right things.
Sure. It's actually a nice career path for nurses too, if they're
Yes.
not into, you know, providing
It's a
actual
lovely career
clinical
path.
care. Yeah, right.
I love it. I just love it.
That's great. And what a wonderful service, you know.
It is. It is a wonderful service.
You know, as a financial advisor, I've been in the business for a couple of decades, so I get to talk to people about their needs and their concerns. And I've seen them age like I have over the
Yes,
years.
yes.
And, you know, talk to them about, have you thought about, you know, prepaying your funeral expenses? And you have to kind of gingerly walk on
Right.
with that kind
Right.
of question. But I think these are issues that sometimes people are afraid to think about, but may be a good idea. Like you said, take a look at what
Yes.
nursing homes are out there. You may not need it. It might be a long time from now, but at least in your mind, you've got some idea of where you might want to go in case you needed to.
Yes, and
to do so.
People tend to call a geriatric care manager when they're in the middle of a crisis. People often say to me, well, what exactly is a geriatric care manager? Well, I have played around with a variety of different definitions, and I really think the best definition, or the way that geriatric care managers are used most, is crisis. We're coming in because there's a crisis, the family's overloaded, the client's in the hospital being faced with a nursing home, something's going on, it's a big change, it's a crisis, and we're going to treat that crisis. I also, though, like to plan ahead and prevent another crisis. Let's not find ourselves in that situation again where we're scrambling. Let's be thoughtful and have an approach for everything so that we're not having to face that.
That's great. Now, you provided me with some resources available, like GRAPE is an available resource. What
Yes.
does GRAPE stand for?
Greater Rochester Area Partnership for the Elderly.
Okay.
And it is a conglomerate of the services for seniors that are provided in the Rochester area. So a visit to their website is going to draw up all of their members, and you'll have access to quite a few services in town by visiting that site.
Okay, we'll be posting this on our television screen here, but GRAPE can be reached from www.grapeelder.org, right?
Yes.
And they've got the phone number. And then there's also the AARP that a lot of people are members once
Right,
is
right.
it 50, age 50?
Age 50 now.
Okay.
Yeah. ARPA's going to get you.
And then sounds like there's also Alzheimer's Association,
Yes.
which many elderly.
Yes. Yes. Of course, that's the big worry. If I'm a little forgetful, do I have Alzheimer's? And maybe someone has said dementia or Alzheimer's, and those are really the same thing. Not always, but they can be. Alzheimer's is a dementia, and so the Alzheimer Foundation is going to help a lot with understanding what's going on and support groups and so forth.
Yeah, that's great. And you also mentioned about the Rochester Area Association of Homes and Services for the Aging. It's quite a mouthful.
Yes, it is quite a mouthful. And that's a site primarily for lower income individuals.
Okay.
But it's going to list out the choices that are going to be, instead of looking at this whole big list, these are the choices that are going to be better suited for that lower income individual. So it cuts right through to the chase.
Okay, so we're posting this on our screen and so that people can look at potential organizations, resources,
great.
but also looking up geriatric care managers. So this is really great. Thank you for this lovely conversation.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's a real pleasure because you get worried about what do people do if their children are out of town or they don't have children. Where do you even begin? So it's nice that
it's
this,
hard to watch your parent age.
Yeah.
And all that entails.
Yeah, and then it removes the guilt too. Of
Oh
kind of
my
just-
gosh, yes. Oh my gosh, aren't we a guilty society? I can take away some guilt.
That's beautiful. Well, thank you very much, Jennifer. Jennifer
thank you.
Mahar, our geriatric care manager, is a guest today, and she's been very helpful in giving us information. And we'll be posting her name on and contact information if you want to reach her. I'm Nanette Nauken. I thank you for joining us today. It's About Money. Until next time.
Thanks for tuning in. If you have any questions, please email Nanette at nnocon@aol.com. Following production was produced through Penfield Community Television in Penfield, New York.